Alright, I'm just going to do a video on basically why Satan is the good guy in the story of Christianity. Oh yeah, I don't know if we'll get roasted for this, but I personally believe that if I were to believe in Christianity and I were to choose one of the two main opposing deities to worship as my main idol, I would choose Satan, and I would not choose God. There are quite a few reasons why I would choose Satan over God. The first being that essentially the whole story of Adam and Eve, with Eve taking the apple and Adam taking a bite out of it, and that dooming humankind, is kind of proof that God is cruel to begin with. God is a very egotistical and nasty creature just based on that story alone. I mean, basically the devil said, you should eat this fruit, you'll learn something about this fruit, you might like this fruit. And they were living in a paradise free of pain and free of misery, where I assumed they would spend eternity happy. God came up to them and said, here, don't fucking do that. Don't eat that apple, or you can't live in paradise anymore. And essentially Satan gave them the option to learn something new, to expand that pleasure, to taste the pleasure and the sensation of the apple. And God denied them, God restricted them. And eventually temptation took hold. Now you could say that Satan knew this temptation would lead them astray and he's evil for tempting them, but I actually think it's good of him to have shown them that other side, him or her. I would say Satan is neither male or female, to be honest. Satan is an entity or concept. And God essentially decided to have a panic attack and say, listen, my creations, you betrayed me, now you're going to have to suffer in life. When actually God could have given them the option to enjoy pleasure, and instead of being such an asshole, essentially allowed them to experience new things outside of his permission. Which shows that God is basically some selfish child. He's like an obsessed lover who thinks they have their interest, your interest in their interest, but really he's just trying to control and manipulate you. Other versions of this are the fact that Satan doesn't really seem to do anything negative. Satan, or the idea of Satan, seems to be the idea of learning or doing things outside of what's normally expected of you. Now, Satan to me is the kind of wonder of mystery, kind of the informer, that which appeals to who you really are. And God is the suppression of yourself instead in place of this knowledge to suppress yourself and be entirely obedient to basically an egotistical man-child. I mean, he creates the world and just decides that everyone else must live beyond these tyrannical rules because it's his fucking property, and if you don't like it, well, I'll send you to an awful place with the devil. And to be honest, I feel as though if I were to go to hell and hang out with Satan, I would probably say, hey man, this is great, it's a shame about the fire, but I'm in the right place. It's better to be down here than up there with all these moral high grounders who've never dared to go outside of these rules that God has given them. An example of God having another panic attack and childish bit of vengeance is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, Sodom and Gomorrah was a place where people were, yes, committing incest and adultery and drinking and gambling, which is, I don't know, a bit disgusting, maybe somewhat reprehensible, but not that big a deal, to be honest. It seemed like it was a place where folk were having quite a lot of fun and yeah, really enjoying themselves. And he just thought, fuck it, I don't like this. This wasn't my idea. I'm going to destroy these people again, like a spoilt child having a tantrum. Fuck them. They don't want to do what I do, so they're gone. The devil seems to just say, do whatever you want, I don't care, whereas God seems to be this authoritarian figure who says, I am the fucking power here. And people decide they want to go to heaven and aspire to be sent to this this eternal, beautiful place. I don't want to have that, you know. I mean, I do, but I wouldn't want it from someone like that. I wouldn't want to be surrounded by a bunch of people who, at the very last stage of life, if they had committed sins, asked for forgiveness and were truly sorry, because it shows that the people around me really didn't live who they were true to themselves. They just thought they'd say this to God to appease him to get to heaven. I want to be surrounded by people like that. And I also don't want to be surrounded by obedient Christians who would be so easy to follow in someone completely based off faith rather than based off logic and reason. And another thing I just don't like about God is the idea that he says if you commit any of these sins against him, against his rules, that you'll be cast out of heaven unless at the end of it you embrace him and Jesus Christ as the true Saviour, and basically deny yourself of who you are. These fake idols, he is the fake idol. Okay, God is the fake idol, if anyone's a fake idol. The fact that he would shun you for behaviour that he himself has committed. Let's go on murder, shall we? So he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. That is in itself murder. He believed by his own will that he was justified to do that. But hell, if you do something like that, you're going to be tortured for eternity. Now that is some fucked up shit. That's some really fucked up shit. I don't think God has any level of empathy to do that. That's just fucked up shit outright. I mean, religion just teaches you that God is this all-loving, all-compassionate being that on the other hand happens to destroy everything that doesn't believe him. I mean, that is just the trait of a sociopath to me. That's not an all-loving being. If one of my friends was acting in this way, I'd probably never speak to them again, you know. If a world leader was acting in this way, I'd hope they got assassinated. So I really don't have much faith in God. There are other things, I can't remember, but there was some guy who he decided to really fuck with his life and his family and decided, oh, I know, we'll test this guy's faith. And at the end of his life he still stayed faithful to God. I mean, yeah, you know, try and make people faithful to God, but don't torture them and see if they'll go out of the way to prove that they love you by torturing them. Imagine if I went out and did that to someone. If I said to someone, you must believe in me, I am your God, I am your everything, you must love me for eternity and prove that you do, and then, you know, really do awful things to them throughout their life and still expect them to love me and be grateful to my existence at the end of it. I'd be in a psych ward after doing something like that. That's really fucked up behaviour there. You know, that's some fucked up shit. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Not at all. I also think what he did to Joseph was awful. I mean, he basically decided to impregnate someone else's wife, and Joseph just went along with it and said, okay, it's a virgin birth, thanks for impregnating my wife, God. You know, Joseph didn't seem to have any say in this. It seems like they were on the fucking run. Joseph had no say in this. He you know, we presume that he was happy, or that he had this child and agreed to accept it, and maybe he was always going to be a father, but there's nothing to say he actually wanted to ever be a father. I mean, childbirth was probably quite a hard deal back then. I mean, looking after a cube was probably some fucking hardcore shit back in those days. It is now. It's no easy task now, but I imagine back then in the fucking middle of the desert in the Middle East, it wasn't so fucking easy. So God decided, oh, fuck you, fuck your life. You're gonna have my son, and he's gonna be the biggest thing ever in history for a while because I decided it. If a friend did that to me, I would leave both them and my wife, most likely. So yeah, there's quite a few reasons why I don't like God. I don't like the kind of people who associate with him for the most. Well, more the fanaticals really. All this crazy shit of subservience to God and such, and the righteous path. I don't know. I just think it's a pile of shit, really. I would rather be with the devil because it's more interesting. I mean, the kind of people who you affiliate with Satanism seem to have far more interesting kinks and far more interesting lives. Christians don't interest me. And out of the Catholic religion, a lot of insane people that I've met were at Catholic schools. Like, hardcore Catholic schools really fuck people, man. Really, really fuck people. I don't know what it is about specifically Catholic schools, but they fuck with people. And I've seen those brainwashing camps on the YouTube where they put all these kids in like a Christian camp and say that they're gonna die and be burnt in hell and that demons are gonna come for them if they play Pokemon and shit like that. Man, that's fuck shit. Saying that Pokemon's the work of the devil, it's just some fucking Japanese kid's game. You catch little animals, raise them, have fun with them, and they battle. It's a bit crazy, but whatever. It's all in good fun. The animation itself, it seems like everyone's pretty happy. There's mild conflicts every now and then, and everyone resolves it, and it's just a nice children's thing. It's a bit weird that they try to associate this shit with the devil, and yeah, just praise this whole ideology of love on people that actually encourages people to put each other down and tells you that if you don't obey them you'll be tortured for eternity. That's really insane, mate. If I fucking had a disagreement with someone and decided I was going to make them live forever and then torture them for the rest of it, could you imagine how that would play out if it was found out? Imagine if I did it for 20 years, let's say. So tomorrow I have a disagreement with a friend and I decide I'm just going to put them in a basement and torture them for 20 years because I am God and it's my will. That's fucked. Think about that in a human term. That's fucked. Anyways, I'm off now. I really don't like the whole God argument as such. I don't really believe in this whole concept of God, Satan, or such. I only really see them as sort of sociological construct concepts. But yeah, in my opinion, if I were chosen to choose either one of these to follow and believe, it would be Satan. And to be honest, Satan is the good guy. Yeah. I'm not really sorry. I wanted to say I'm sorry for saying that, but I'm not. He is the good guy. I mean, look at the difference between Satan and God, and you'll see that. Don't listen to the difference that other people tell you. Don't listen to that whole Jesus, the Holy Trinity, wine and bread. Don't listen to that. Read the reality of what happened, and you'll see that it's Satan who is the good guy. Anyways, I'm heading off now. I actually am. Satan's the good guy. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, tell me why, and I'll debate you, or I won't. I really don't want to debate this, to be honest. This is my opinion on this matter, I guess. Well, au revoir.